All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am so excited for our guest today because we have none other than Luis Velasquez from Velas Coaching. We're talking today about using leadership resilience to adapt and thrive. And we've got the king of resilience here today. Thanks for being here today, Luis.
I am so grateful you had me and decided to have me in your show. Thank you so much, my man.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. You know, we got to talk a while ago, talked yesterday again, getting prepared for the show, and I am very excited to uncover how you're helping people with your coaching, especially because we talked a little bit about your your niche, your specialty is really coaching people that may not really want to be coached that much. So this is going to be interesting.
I am looking forward to the conversation.
So let's get going. We always start out with a general question to kind of learn more about Luis, how you got here. How did you end up deciding that coaching was your calling? That's what you wanted to do.
How much time do we have?
We've got a bit.
All right. I started as a scientist. I started as a person who wanted to become an academic, and
Yep.
I actually got a PhD in the sciences, and I became a professor of fungal genetics at Michigan State University. Um, I thought that I had it all already figured it out. In the process, I got married. In the process, I got a dog. In the process, I got a house, and everything was okay. And I was very proud of who I was, and uh, uh, and the things that I have accomplished. And then, man, life, sometimes throws curves at you. And my curveball came in the form of a brain tumor.
Uh-huh.
So, after, the brain tumor, the surgeries and everything else, I realized that the doctor told me actually that it will be you know, difficult to go back to, to teaching full time or to walk, straight anymore. Let's put it that way. So I had to, reinvent myself. And, and I figured, I was thinking, what can I do? Should I become a greeter at Walmart? I consider actually, and maybe I'll go into real estate or, used car salesman or whatever.
Yeah.
And at that time, the when I was doing my PhD at Michigan State, I was married to a wonderful woman. She was doing a master's in HR, and I helped her. She helped me, and then I realized maybe I should just do HR. Maybe that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call myself a consultant, and
Yeah.
that's how I started. I decided, I need to reinvent myself, and I started doing consulting and in HR. And it was a slow start, but that's how I started. And then it turns out that I'm coaching has been my passion. I just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And then coaching found me. And then here we are today.
So what was the point at when I mean you're out there, you're consulting HR, you're consulting in HR kind of things. When did you just decide HR is cool and everything, but I really feel the pull into coaching individuals and professionals?
I was doing a consulting gig in Saudi Arabia at one time.
Okay.
And I was sitting in my consulting office, if you want to call it, and then the HR VP of the company that I was consulting with, came into the office and said, Luis, I'm having I need to have a presentation tomorrow. Can you help me prepare? And I said, sure, I'll help you. And then 2 days later, he came back with a different question. And then later he said, Luis, I have these two VPs that they need your help. Can you help them? And I said, sure, I'll do it. I didn't know what that I was
Yeah.
doing. I thought I was just helping him. And the company that I was working for at the time realized what I was doing, and they started labeling me as a coach. Oh, you're a coach. You're a coach. And that's how I started. When I came back in 2007 to the States, I had to shift my focus, because now I was here in the States and I had to do some work for the organization. You're doing some employee engagement surveys and analysis.
Hmm.
In 2000 2013, I had to have another brain surgery.
Uh-huh.
When I came back from the brain surgery, I was so afraid that it was going to be like the first time around, but I recovered much faster. The thing that happened at that time is that the company that I was working for couldn't afford to keep me on the payroll for a long
Mhm.
time, so
Yep.
they let me go.
Yeah.
So I decided, what am I going to do now? So I started looking for a job, and I was sitting on a interview with the manager, the hiring manager.
Yeah.
And the hiring manager told me straight, Luis, we're not going to hire you here. You don't fit in this culture. And besides, you don't have the experience. He gave me a bunch of info. And then he said, the reason why I'm telling you now is because I don't fit here too. I am looking to leave. Will you consider helping me transition? And I was like, oh, that was like the bulb came into my,
Wow.
gosh, this is something that I need to do now. Instead of looking for a job, I'm gonna start looking for clients. And that's how I planted um, my flag as an executive coach. Several things happened since then, that actually reinforced the idea that that's what I am supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Um, um, I coached for Google for a while, and then I actually got I do facilitation at the Stanford University School of Business.
Yes.
And those two things have been really good. What is the word that I'm looking for? Validation of the work that I'm doing.
Hmm.
And here we are today.
Yeah, because you got those two, Google and Stanford, two well-respected companies, universities in the
Yeah,
U.S. and the world. And if you're able to go there and perform, it's it does validate that you are effective at
correct.
what you do, and
Mhm.
a lot of good there. That is quite a ride though, because that had to be an interesting interview when the HR person who was interviewing you said, "I would like you to help me
I would like to
transit."
push me. And we're still friends, we still talk once in a while.
Very
But
cool.
recently I told him that, he was the person that generated and
Yeah.
was the catalyst for what I am today. And so I'm, very grateful to that. And I think that that is one thing that I do want to lead with, is that, we need others to know ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if he wouldn't recognize that I could have helped him and ask for my help, I'd probably be still looking for a job now.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's great that you were able to. I mean, it's just so when you think of life and you think of the different things that happen, and some good, some bad, in your case, some really challenging. But these little things, these catalysts that we don't really understand how they change our life until we look back. Some of them, little things, can be huge over time when we look back.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the funny thing, what I've seen is that everybody can recognize things in the past. You see, like myself, oh my God, that moment was incredible because that made me who I am today, and we can easily go back and try to find the pivotal moments that we have
Mhm.
had. What I write about in the book, is that we can create those moments now and use them as a pivotal moments in our careers, or in
Oh,
our in our journey. I just been coaching an individual that, yeah, he he's being perceived as a very difficult and aggressive bully,
mhm.
and when I presented him with the 360 and all, and he was floored, and he said, I had no idea that this was what people think about me. And I said, well, yeah, it is. So we talk about it and say, this is a pivotal moment for you. Right now, you need to make a decision and say, I need to change this. So going back to, with the conversation that we're having is that we recognize the moments that were incredible in our past lives, but we have the ability to create those moments now as well.
Yes. That's very interesting you say that you can create those moments now. So what are some of the ways that you help people do that? Because that's a very interesting thing. If we're sitting here today wondering and we go, okay, what are a couple things that we might help us trigger that?
Well, I think that, when the people hire me or the people that I coach, just because they are in some sort of need,
Yeah.
either they want to get a promotion or they want to sell the company or they,
Mm,
whatever that is, you see.
yeah.
And there is only a few people that have hired me because, oh my God, I need a coach, and they are they are already working at their full potential, which happens as well. But, I coach some people that are considered, high potentials, and they just hire the organization or them hire me to help them improve what is already at a high level. The
Yes.
key here, the what I call my philosophy of coaching touches 3 points. Point number one is the aspirational goal. What is it that I want to do in the future? What is it that I want to be known for?
Mm-hmm.
Number two is the organizational needs. What does the company need from me?
Mm-hmm.
And number three is the brand or the perception that people have of these people. Some people are that have great aspirations, and some people are actually killing at the work, but they are known as the bullies or they are known as the non-collaborators. So when I present that to them and I said, whatever we do has to fit in these 3 points.
Yes. Yeah. That's very powerful because two things. First of all, considering what the organ, because you're called in typically in a situation where a high performing or someone they feel it could have very high potential for an organization, but they're just not fitting in for some reason or having some challenges, right? And that is where you're looking at the organizational need, and you said brand or how they're perceived in the organization or around everything, and then what they want to do. It's putting those three things together really gives a nice view of where they need to move towards.
It is about finding the right motivation. It's
Yeah.
ready to find the motivation. And I want to be clear, the majority of people that I coach are not necessarily considered, difficult,
Yes.
but there are some that are, or some that are, and they don't even know it.
Yes.
Some are high potentials that are already, like they're there, they're being looked at, and for some reason they're not able to move to the next level.
Mm.
And that's where I come in and try to figure out, what is it that their aspirations are, and what are the organization metrics,
Yes.
and then put those together. So then by putting those together, then we can create an action plan that fits both what the organization needs and what the coachee wants to achieve.
Yes. Yeah. Very cool. So what is now, you've been coaching a while now. So think back to when you started coaching. What was one thing that you just that you never thought that would be as big a challenge as it is about coaching?
I think that I think that and this happens with a lot of experts and a lot of people that are highly expert, is the idea that the higher you go in any organization, or the more skilled you are in anything, the less you think you need to learn anything. And that happens to me as well. You see what I'm saying? So okay, I've been coaching here, I've been coaching, I know everything about coaching. And the reality is that there is no way I can know everything about it. And that is universal. The higher you go in the organization and the more you know, the more you realize that you need to learn more.
Yes.
And so
That's great.
that's what I think it is, what I have found. And I mean, the way I see it, Damon, is that we're all human, and
Mhm.
the people that I coach, are any different from me. The only difference is that sometimes the stakes are higher. They have a lot of responsibility, but we're humans. We
Yeah.
have the same problems. They have the same issues.
Yes. Yes. And that's I'm glad you bring it up because a lot of people from the outside would look at high performing people and think, well, they've got it. They've got it. But when you're talking with these people, do you see that? Because I think of people put them on a pedestal, right? The CEO of a company or somebody like that. But when you're coaching these high performers, do you feel that pedestal, while they've achieved a lot, as a person, they've got a lot of the same problems that anybody does?
Absolutely. I mean, I have a 6-year-old and I have a 10-year-old, and the same issues that I see with them are basically the same issues that we have as adults as well. I mean, we have to be nice. You have to wait your turn. You have to be nice to each other. You have to listen. It's the same thing.
Yes.
The only difference is at the highest level, the stakes are much, much higher.
Yes.
And there is another component that gets in the way is the ego. So now, what you mentioned earlier for a little bit is the idea that, the people put these people at the pedestal. I mean, they are the CEOs, they are the founders. And I remember, when I was, going through my brain tumor, I was so proud of who I was. I was a professor. I was a PhD. I was, and so I was putting my identity on the thing that I did, which is for me, as I experienced, it was very dangerous because the minute I couldn't do what I was supposed to do, threatened my identity. So I
Yes.
think that the one thing that I do with a lot of yeah, people that I coach is to uncover what their identity is, as opposed to I'm the CEO. That is not your identity. That's what you do.
Yes.
Your identity is different. Like if you ask me why my identity is, I am a resilient muffle.
Yeah.
That's how I describe myself. And I am committed, I am persistent, and I am optimistic. And everybody that I know has an identity, and all we need to do is to uncover it, because that is what allows us to do whatever we want to do, regardless of the title or regardless of
Mhm.
of what we do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I've got a ton of questions in my head right here, and I'm just trying to line them up because we've got so many good ones. But as you're doing this, when you run into these coaching clients that are misunderstood, at least in their mind, they don't even see. Susan might not even know how Susan comes off to everyone around them in the workplace or even at home for that matter. Um, to the extent that they probably do after they talk with you. So what are some of the common things that they're missing? I mean, because it happens in a lot of places, but are they missing cues, or are they so driven that they don't even consider what they're seeing? What do you usually, when someone's misunderstood like that?
Well, there is a lot of, there is no one right answer
Okay.
for
All
that.
right.
I mean, there is so many things here. But what I think that the one thing that I have seen is that and I said we because I think that, I put myself in the category too,
Yeah.
is that we don't ask enough questions from others. So
Mm.
what is the impact that we're having with people? We assume that what we do is the right thing to do, and not paying attention to the feedback from people. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of times, people at the highest level, because they have achieved, or you have achieved a position
Hmm.
that almost gives them the right to not to dismiss, not to ignore, but not to pay attention to other points of view. And that is a very dangerous place to be. And sometimes a lot of people do it without even consciously knowing that that's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think those kind of things is where they get in trouble and where it just perpetuates or even grows.
Absolutely. I had a coaching client and he was in his almost his late 60s. And he said, Luis, I am 60 something years old and I cannot believe I'm learning about this now. I have no idea.
Oh, well, it's great that they eventually did learn, because if you'd never learn, it would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
So that's good that you were able to help them. So let's talk a bit about resilience. We're talking today about, resilience and how you can use that in leadership to adapt and thrive. You wrote a book, Ordinary Resilience. It's out there to help us learn more about that. But when we talk about resilience, using resilience in the way that you practice and teach people how to use resilience, what are some of the things that people should be considering if they're sitting there and they're just like, I don't know, this may be, I may be at my end, and you're like, well, I'm resilient mofo, as you said. What does resilient mofo do at that point to get themselves back up?
Well, so number one is, I think that the book, of the title of the book is Ordinary Resilience, and I
Yeah.
think the word ordinary is because resilience is not reserved for a few people. It's not reserved for people that had a brain tumor like myself, or it's not reserved for a person who climbed Mount Everest barefoot. It's not that. That is endurance, and that is different. Resilience is the way I see it is the process of adaptation. We need to adapt. And if you think about that, we as humans are the most resilient species in the world. Now, how we got here? Because we have adapted over thousands of years. Slow adaptations that made us who we are today. So I think that the key here is it's not about changing, but it's adapting. It's and the idea here is that you and I already have everything that we need to take the first step. And what I mean by that is that we need to make a decision. I'm gonna get better at this. I'm gonna do this and actually go do it.
Yes, because oftentimes it's when you're sitting there and you're maybe at your wit's end, or you don't think you can keep going. It's that first step to keep going is what really
That's it.
Just gets you there, gets you through.
And to your point earlier, it's like, I'm done. I cannot do anything else. And the reality is that that we always have choices. Sometimes we see things as black and white, and there are many other different ways of looking at things. And I think that if I could put the book and actually my coaching practice into one sentence, it will be this. To act differently, we need to think differently. To think differently, we need to see differently. And people that feel that have at the end wits, they don't see things from a different perspective that will uncover different ways of thinking, therefore ways of acting. So that's a lot of times that's what I do with my coaches, is to help them to uncover the things that they either subconsciously have ignored or not willing to look at.
Yes, because
It's always a choice. We all, the biggest gift that God, life, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, has given us is the power of choice.
Yes.
So what I do in my coaching practice is to help them, to uncover options so they can make better choices.
Yes. So when you're doing this and you're talking with people, what are some of the things they say when they find this, when they find a new perspective, when they find there was a whole world of choices they didn't see? What are some of the realizations that they make that you hear them tell you about? or even a phrase that comes out that's like, oh my goodness, I never looked at that, or what, just, I mean, because these have to be some pretty, like glass breaking type moments for them.
What is interesting is that the realization doesn't come in the moment sometimes.
Okay.
They don't see it, and they don't see it literally. And then it was later when I probed to them, was it easier now than it was before? Yes, it is easy. So I'm a runner. I love to run. I love to run. And I a lot of times I go around with friends and I cannot help but see how they run. And I said to them, I'm going to fix your running form in 2 minutes. And I give them 3 points. You have to do this, and that, and then try it. So they start trying it. And then I tell them, okay, so forget about what I told you. Just forget about it. Just run the way you run. Just run the way you run. And then they do. And then I said to them, now run the way I ask you to do. And then they do it. I say, how does it feel? Oh my gosh, I cannot describe it. It's different. It feels effortless. That's the point. So I think that a lot of times we don't have the words to say, but we can feel it when we see it.
Yes. Yes. I bet you get a lot of texts or calls. Somebody like they woke up and it hit them, and they realized, or they felt it after they've got to think about it for a while.
Yes, I do. But again, a lot of times this happens a year after we start working together.
Okay.
I say, oh my God, I just realized that this is what I've been doing. And this is, you see what I'm saying? So yeah. And again, so here is the key, going back to resilience. I think that we have been conditioned to look for the easy fix and the instant gratification. Thanks, Amazon today thing, And resilient is a process of adaptation that happens over a long time.
Yes, that's true.
So I think that a lot of times we want to fix things immediately. And some of these people, as I mentioned, some that including myself, we have done things the way we're doing this all our lives. And then here I come, and telling them this, something that they can do something different, it's not going to register right away.
It's a great point. That's a great point. And I'm thinking about you being an avid runner and how resilience plays into that passion of yours and how that translates into your coaching and how you can help, because the part of running, I've got to imagine that running long distances as you do is as much as perspective as it is your body being in shape.
It's mental. 100 miles, it's a long time,
Yeah.
Being 20 plus hours on the run without sleep is mental. It's mental. But somebody asked me a while ago, how do you do it? What's the secret? Or, how do you finish these things? And I thought long and hard about that. And I said, if you want to finish 100 miles, there are 3 things that you need to do. You need to eat well, manage your nutrition, This is actually somebody already trained, the training behind, but somebody that is already at the starting line, and say, nutrition, you're going to eat right because it's a long way. The other one is pacing. If you go too fast, you're going to bunk. If you're too slow, you're not going to finish. And the last one is take care of your feet. And sometimes, like a little pebble that is insignificant, at over 3-4 hours becomes a big blister, and then it becomes a pain in your hip. And that translates to, to many other things in life as well. When I, coach people, I tell them, you got to pace yourself. You're not going to be number one seller in your field overnight. Things takes time. You need to when the thing about the feet, you need to conserve your resources. You need to, get your friends. You need to hire the right people. And nutrition is like, what do you eat? And what I mean, what do you eat is, how do you feed your mind? What do you read? Who are you paying attention to? What feedback are you getting to make the right decisions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And I can see you practicing coaching with resilience in mind, and the training that it takes to be able to run these endurance races. They all kind of ties together, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Okay, let's put it this way. It does because it gives me a bunch of stories and life lessons.
Yes.
But you don't need to be an ultra runner
No.
to be a coach. You just need to have the lessons that
Mm-hmm.
the knowledge and the lessons and the wisdom, that in order to to make comparisons and to create analogies, which is what people appreciate. They don't want to tell you have to do this because X, Y, and Z said that it is true because the research has done it. That never works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing that if someone's listening today and they say, man, what Luis is saying today is really hitting home with me. What would you talk with them about first? What was the first thing that you would suggest for them to do? Find somebody, realize they can change. What would, if someone's sitting there today, what would you, and they're wondering.
I think that the first thing is it's not about me or what I do, but for what is it that resonated with them the most. That's number one. Number two is like, if they are listening to this and it resonated to this, is because they are probably in a situation that they don't want to be in. And I think that the first thing that we need to do is to say, this is not what I want to be, and make the commitment to move forward.
Boom, right there. That is, if you're not in the situation, if you realize you're not in the situation you want to be in, make the commitment and take the steps to move forward.
Absolutely. And I'll use commitment for a particular reason. Commitment has an emotional attachment to it. I'm committed to my wife. I'm committed to my family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm committed to my country, whatever that is. It's an emotional commitment. It's an emotional attachment to it. When you say you need to make a decision, decisions are cerebral. It's things that live in your head. And in order to move forward, you need your head and you need your heart.
Yes, because that emotion will help you keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Luis, it's been awesome having you here today. And if people didn't know, you finished a book here recently, Ordinary Resilience. You can find it on Amazon and other places to buy. It is incredible. Go out and get that if you want to. What is the best way if someone wants to reach out and talk to you about some coaching?
I think that the best way to reach out to me is through my LinkedIn profile. My LinkedIn. I hope that you can put it on the materials there, and then I respond to every single email that people send me. So
very good.
Yeah. So you can visit my website as well. It's velascoaching.com.
All right. VELAS coaching.com.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much, Luis. I want to thank everyone that's been out there listening today. Thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate you and hope that you'll be back again with us again. We will be back again with another great guest. Luis, hang out. We'll finish up offline.
Thank you so much, Damon. I really appreciate you having me.
Yes. Thanks for being here.